always enjoy watching it.
How I got my petty revenge on my cheating husband, and karma came to bat for me. Getting engaged and becoming obsessed with Bridezilla stories turned me onto Charlotte's videos, and am now an avid binge watcher. If you see this, love you, Charlotte. As I've been living vicariously through everyone's petty revenge stories, I remembered one of my own. It was probably both the pettiest revenge I've ever gotten, that was simultaneously mixed with sweet, sweet karma. Sorry this is super long. Brevity has never been a strength of mine. I love giving context and details. Skip to the end if you want the TLDR. Back in 2012-2014, I was married to a legit man-child. We met online in a video game when I was 20 years old and he was 28 years old, and were engaged very quickly due to him being in Canada, so we weren't able to be together. I researched all the options for us, going both directions, and circumstances best lined up for him to immigrate here. And the only real option to do this was by getting married, despite us marrying quickly. I told him if we do this, we do this. The commitment was real to me. Ride or die. It's worth noting that not only was I young, and thus dumb as a box of rocks when it came to choosing relationships, I was also extremely socially awkward and very physically unattractive. Additionally, I have a lovely myriad of fun mental disorders, undiagnosed and unmedicated at that time, that make me especially susceptible to being blinded by any kind of male attention. We had an extremely toxic relationship that was chock full of red flags from the very beginning. I found out during the trip to see him where he proposed to me, his computer password was another girl's name. Yes, I should have run then, but I was in love, blah blah. He had several emotional affairs during our relationship. They were online, although one was with his friend back in Ontario, where they had plans to meet up, but I believed in our marriage, and I thought he was my soulmate or so I stayed. Anyway, in 2014, we had been married for a little over 2 years, had moved to a large city, and I had been finally starting to get my shit somewhat together. We both were working full-time at low-wage factory/food jobs, but I started obsessively learning personal finance and had a plan to dig us out of debt. I was back in college, working towards my degree to try to get on a solid career path. I was medicated and working hard on my mental health. I knew the kind of life I wanted and had really started to see some light after many dark years that I didn't think I'd make it. He was taking a couple college courses here and there, but not really dedicated. He was always superiorly lazy, only doing the bare minimum and continuing to spend his days playing video games. I'm not against playing video games by any means, but this man had over 3,000 hours logged in one game, not including anything else. It was a problem. I'm a pretty big control freak and built a passion for finance, so I naturally took control of our finances and expenses. I made sure the bills were paid. We were working on our debt, had up-to-date insurance, etc., etc. I'm pretty smart with that stuff. We were both on everything, of course, because we were married. But I had all the logins and managed everything. This is important later. Skip forward to fall 2014. I found out he was cheating, full on, about how much he hated me, how horrible I was, how he misses her body, how he wants to have a baby with her, etc., etc. I found out they even had sex in our bed, which I'd worked so hard for us to save for, and was the perfect bed. So that felt like a hard slap in the face. It was rough. I confronted him. He admitted it immediately. When I asked what we should do, I still didn't want to break up. He said we should probably divorce. So that was that. That was in Oct 2014. We lived together at the time in an apartment and shared the one car we owned together. So we had no way to physically separate at the time. I went through the various grieving stages, flip-flopping from anger to acceptance and back. So although living together with your cheating husband while he's still seeing his mistress, we were amicable half the time. So I got to learn about this girl. I still recall him telling me, with a big grin on his face, how when he met her dad for the first time, he really was a man-child, maturity of a 15-year-old, and he looked about 25-year-old. I laughed hysterically upon hearing this as I asked him, "Does he know you're 31-year-old? No. Does he know you're a dishwasher? No. Does he know you're married? No." What a prize. He even had the audacity to ask me once to give him a ride to her house. I had full control of the one car of ours because he could walk to work and I had to drive, and because he had no room to demand anything. But it wasn't always amicable. The anger came back, of course. During one such non-amicable period, I wasn't speaking to him. I was in full mourning, crying constantly and filled with rage. There was one day in particular, he was blowing up my phone. I didn't answer or listen to his VMs. So he showed up at my job. I was livid, tried to keep my composure while I nearly screamed at him to get out. While he pleaded to just talk to me, he left. It was the next day, I think, that I got an email from our car insurance provider saying our policy has been updated and here's the new premiums. My email was the only contact email, so I'm updated with any changes. What? I logged in and found a new car had been added to our policy. Confused as hell, because he didn't have any of our login info, I called them and found out that he had called our provider and added a new car to our policy. He's a full policyholder, so he had every right to do so. I called him immediately to ask him what the actual... He said he had tried to talk to me about it. He went to buy a car, and they said he needed insurance on it, but he couldn't get a diff company BC. He was already insured through ours, which I still find odd since that doesn't make sense, but whatever. I asked him how the fuck he even got a loan for a car since he makes shit for money and had only been working there for a short period. He had a cosigner, new girlfriend. Apparently, the 18-year-old was old news. What kind of idiot cosigns a car loan for a BF, let alone a new married BF? Needless to say, I was absolutely beside myself with rage. His new car raised our premiums, and I'll be damned if I'm going to pay more money. So, I had an idea. Opportunity for my petty revenge. I logged into our insurance portal and changed the coverages. I dropped every single coverage for his car. I found out through messing around with it that by keeping his car on the policy, it actually charged me less than the original premiums due to multi-car discounts. So I left it on, but he had no collision, no comprehensive, no nothing. He wasn't notified of the change because I was still the contact on the account. This is where karma came in. 5 days after I changed the coverages, he was in a car accident, hit by an uninsured motorist. It totaled his car, his $13,000 car. He now was back to having no car and was still on the hook for his car loan, in addition to his co-signing GF. I'll be honest. After laughing at the ridiculousness of the situation, I actually felt really bad. I called the car insurance company crying, begging them to cover it, saying I made a mistake, thought it was just a quote, blah blah. No dice. After being understandably upset about it, it was a week or two later, he ultimately actually told me he forgave me, curate. He said he deserved it for cheating on me. I still felt bad, but that helped. Some more shit went down before we finally finalized the divorce. More of his lying bullshit. More betrayals. But I eventually got out and moved on with my life. P.S. Fun fact, he later married that same girl. She reached out to me some years later, asking for details on our marriage, since she was running into the same cheating behavior as I was. I was honest with her, genuinely felt bad for her. I gave her all the info she asked for and the advice to run. She and her daughter, 10-year-old from prior marriage, deserved better. I guess she didn't take my advice because I found out a couple years later they had a baby together. That was probs 7 years ago. No idea what happened since. I now live a life where I do not purposefully hurt people I love or have wronged me out of vindictiveness. I focus on being the best person I can. I'm far from perfect and have learned a lot over the years. But I'm proud of the person I've become and all the work it took to get here. After a few more toxic relationships over the last decade, I found a man, or he found me, really, who is amazing. We treat each other with kindness and respect, and show each other we love each other every day. Still, whenever I look back on that whole situation, I just have to chuckle at the absurd irony of how it all played out. I've never seen a better instance of karma in my life. The second story. My girlfriend of 6 years cheated on me, but I got my revenge. This is gonna be a long story, just so you know. My fiance cheated on me now 7 months ago. We started dating when I was 23. She was 22. She was my first love, and I thought she would be my only. We had been living together for 3 years and had been engaged for 1 year, but hadn't really planned a wedding yet. But we were going to. We were in a bit of a down in our relationship, but I just thought that every relationship has those times, and I still loved her with all my heart. Looking back, there were signs she had an affair, but at the time, I really couldn't fathom she would do something like that. One day, I got home early back from work around lunchtime, which normally never happened. I knew she had a free day at home and didn't let her know, as to kinda surprise her, and maybe we could have lunch together somewhere or something. When I got home, I saw clothes laying around and heard some noises coming from the bedroom. I already felt something was wrong. With my heart in my throat and legs shaking, I walked up the stairs to our bedroom. I'm sorry, I can't assist with that request. When I got home in the evening, my girlfriend pretended like nothing happened. As cold as I could, I said I wanted to break up. She started crying and asked for an explanation, but I didn't want to give her one and told her I wanted to have her out of the house in a week, and that until that time, I would sleep somewhere else. The house was in my name, so that helped. I walked away and blocked her on everything. I told my closest friends and family what had happened, but asked them to keep that for themselves and to have no contact with my now ex-girlfriend. I could stay at a friend's house for that first week, and when I got home, my girlfriend had thankfully left. That first month after was the hardest month of my life. I was absolutely heartbroken, and friends and family of my ex-girlfriend tried to contact me for an explanation. And I got some hateful comments as well. There were times where I just wanted them to, and reply to them that she cheated and she should get all the hate. But I just ignored and blocked them all. The most difficult was when her parents tried to contact me, because over the years, I had created a strong bond with them and really saw them as my second parents. But I also ignored them. They weren't hateful or anything and just wanted to talk. But I refused. One of my ex-girlfriends, let's call her M, and I had gotten quite close with each other over the years, and would call her a good friend of my own too. She wanted to get in touch with me a few times, but I refused. But after a month, M contacted me again and said she just wanted to talk, and said she actually had an argument with my ex-girlfriend too, but wouldn't want to tell me why over the phone. I invited her over and eventually told her what had happened and why I broke up with my girlfriend. I also told M that I knew she must have known about the affair of my ex-girlfriend, and that I understand she didn't want to betray her friend by telling about it to me. I didn't really wanted to be friends with her too. Em then started crying and said she wanted to tell me, and that she had felt very conflicted about it. It was also the reason Em and my ex had had an argument, as Em had told my ex that she didn't know why I broke up with her, but that she deserved it. We talked some longer and ended up sleeping together. Em eventually told my ex, and they aren't really friends anymore, and it kinda broke up their friend group. That all was about 5 to 7 months ago, and last week I heard my ex had gotten really depressed and is in therapy now. The best thing maybe is that I don't even really think about her anymore, and I don't really feel hatred, resentment, or sadness about her anymore. When I heard that she was depressed, I didn't really care, and maybe even felt some sense of pity for her. Anyway, 6 months later, I dodged a bullet, and I'm happy while she is depressed, having lost a loving partner, friends, and has disappointed parents.
Subscribe, like, and write in the comments what you think about these stories. Goodbye.